Waiting for my screen to load. Yes, it's loaded. Cool. So please ensure that you guys finish up your tasks and do not forget that you have to finish all these check-in tasks because we have cool awards coming in, as you guys already know. We also have awards like, the best buddies and all of that. So you guys, if you want to win, you have to finish a lot of challenges. So let's ensure that you guys finish that. Cool. Let's begin. Now, when you talk about something like sales auditing, it is important to understand what exactly does it mean. You cannot see my screen.
No, we're seeing the YouTube page.
Wait a second. Let me check again. Now, can you guys see it?
Yes.
Yes. Perfect. Works well. Cool. Let's begin then. So, as I was saying, first of all, do not forget your check-in tasks and all that, which I think you guys already know. So, I'm not going to take you guys again to do that. To the kind of tasks that you guys have, which is your air challenge. You have to contact your buddy, and you also have to post the check-ins on Instagram, and you have to tag out of Asia Pacific. So let's forget that. Cool. So when it comes to sales auditing, you guys might be thinking that why exactly do we do this in AIESEC, or what exactly is it, or why am I as an LCV supposed to do it? But then, first of all, let's put down the entire perspective into understanding what is sales auditing, right? So the first thing to define definition of sales auditing is when we evaluate the sales capacity of members to check whether it is at the optimum level or not. That is exactly what sales auditing is. We are going to evaluate whether the members that you have right now in your departments are at the optimum sales capacity or not, right? So that is what the provision of sales auditing looks like. But then the question that might arise over here is that why exactly is it important? Especially when you consider the current scenarios when a lot of operations in the most of the entities are closed down. Why is it important to do sales auditing right now? So that exactly is what we are going to answer throughout this session. That is the question that we are going to find an answer to throughout this entire 1 hour session. So let's begin and jump in. Awesome. Now, I want you guys to define what your ideal member looks like. The kind of member that every LCVP wants, the kind of member who is super good, super productive, and literally like the best member anyone can get. I want you guys to think about that member for the next 2 minutes. Define your best member based on these three things: knowledge, skills, and attitude. Like, what exactly is the knowledge, skills, and attitude that this best member of yours will have will actually make them an ideal member? That is what I want you guys to define for the next 2 minutes. I'm telling you, you guys exactly have 2 minutes to define the knowledge, skills, and attitude that your best member needs to have. Your time starts now. Let's go. You can have in the notepad or something that you want, because later on you will need these things. So please ensure that you write it down, and you can just like maybe scribble it out on your laptop, on your phone, or anywhere. But yeah, you have 2 minutes.
Hi, can I add a question?
We can take questions at the end if that's
Okay.
yeah. But if you need help in defining, yes, I mean that is what the activity is. So yeah. Cool. Are you guys done? Did you guys define your best member based on knowledge, skills, and attitude? Yes? Awesome. Great. So now that since you guys are done with this, you might have this one question as to how do I audit sales in my LC? Now that I know what kind of a member I want, how do I exactly audit my sales? How do I exactly go forward with the procedure? So let's jump into that. Now, first of all, the very first step of sales auditing is to actually define the sales levels, which means you have to segregate your members into different levels, because the entire idea of sales auditing is to segregate members based on their sales capacity. So you guys right now will have to segregate them into different levels, right? So let's say the first one is called a newbie, the second level is called a senior, and the third level can be called a master. You can call them anything, but these are like the simpler names, which actually, makes it easier to understand. So you can call them anything, maybe in your local language as well, but you have to segregate your members into 3, or maybe let's say at max 4 or 5 levels, which you think is accordingly appropriate for your department. So when you do this, this is going to help you segregate them based on their skills and knowledge and attitude. Where exactly are you going to put them? So when you define these levels, it is going to help you put your members into compartments or levels, so that when you define strategies or when you're actually working on improving their sales capacity, you know which level to focus on in what always, right? Are you guys clear? That's the first step. Coming to the second step, that is, you guys have to establish the KSA, which means what exactly you guys did right now, which is the knowledge, skills, and attitude. So for every level, there has to be certain knowledge, certain skills, and certain attitude which people in that level need to have, which members in that level need to have, right? For example, for a newbie, in terms of knowledge, it can be about, let's say, partners. So a newbie knows about what all IR partners you are working with. They know what all IR partners you are actually going to focus on and all of that. For a senior, it is not just IR partners, but they know what are exactly your regional strategies. So let's say for a senior member, they know which region you as an LCBP want to focus on, which region you want to divert your exchanges to. They need to have all the knowledge of the region. And then when it comes to a master member, they of course need to know how to do SND analysis, because that is going to give them a lot of more insights into the entire IR thing, right? So that is how things happen. So when you define these 3 levels of knowledge, you have to put them down in such a way. I mean, it can be any other type of knowledge that you think is important, but it has to be in increasing levels like this. For example, a master level member will of course know about IR partners, but they also need to know about S&D analysis. Similarly, when you define these 3 levels and then knowledge, skills, and attitude, it has to be in an increasing level. So when one person jumps from one level to the other, they have that knowledge to be increased to another level, right? So that is what you guys have to define when you are defining this KSA. And when you do this, it is going to help you evaluate what kind of activities you want to take up for each of these levels to develop their knowledge, skills, and attitudes when you, as an LCVP, are actually formulating, let's say, your department meetings or training sessions or anything. So when you do all of this, you will know how exactly you want to, increase their knowledge and attitude based on the things that you've defined for every level. So when you do this, it is going to help you create a lot of content that you want to drive down when you're taking up these department meets with your members. The third step is actually defining the key performance indicators. Now, there can be 2 major types of KPIs for all these kind of sales auditing mechanisms, right? The first one being approval per peak, and the second one being leads per week. Now, understand, approvals are per peak and leads are per week. The reason being that approvals is something which is like a long time thing, but leads, you are going to allocate them every week. So all these signups that you allocate to your members every week, you need to define which level will get how many signups and which level will get how many approvals. So in terms of approvals, it can be, let's say, for a master level, it can be more than 8 approvals in one entire peak. But for a newbie, it can be somewhere around 1 or 2 approvals in one peak. And for a senior, it can be, let's say, 4 or 5 approvals in one peak. So you guys need to define how exactly you want to allocate the approvals to your different levels of sales, so that you are able to track them based on that. So let's say a member in a master level has to achieve close to 8 approvals in one peak. And if they are already progressing towards that goal, and if you know about these KPIs, then you'll be able to actually track them better. When they are, let's say, at 4 or 5, you know that you only need to push them a bit and they will reach to 8. That is how you guys are supposed to help them out, and that is how your KPIs are going to help you when you are doing the sales auditing, right? So those are the KPIs. Are you guys clear till now? Clear? Awesome, great. Let's move ahead. And then the fourth step is actually deciding areas to evaluate. Now, when you do a sales auditing procedure, there are various areas that you can evaluate, right? For example, organizational knowledge, product knowledge, communication skills, sales skills, all of that. So you need to define which areas you are going to evaluate and how much weightage you want to put to that. For example, organizational knowledge is all about like AIESEC and how exactly things are going on in AIESEC. When did we start? What is our why, what, how, all of that. When it comes to product knowledge, it can be about like the value proposition, the BMC, which is the business model canvas, the customer personas, all of that. So that is the product knowledge. And the third thing, which is communication, how exactly are they talking to you? How are they placing their thoughts? How is the way they talk to you, or how is the way they are trying to convince you, and all of that. And then the sales skills, which is basically the negotiation and convincing. So when you define these areas to evaluate, you have to decide how much weightage you want to give to which area, because all of them cannot have the same weightage. You as an LCVP would of course want to focus on one thing more than the other. So you have to define how much weightage you want to give them to each of these topics, and how are you going to take up with the sales auditing. So of course, when you do the audit mechanism, there will be questions under each of these criteria. But which question has how much of weightage, you guys need to decide based on your focus as an LCVP. Because in your membership, maybe they are lacking in only one certain area and not all of them. For example, they are very good at organizational knowledge and product knowledge, but maybe they are lacking sales skills or communication skills. So then maybe you would want to put more weightage to communication skills and sales skills. So that's how things need to be defined by you as an LCVP, after understanding from your departments what exactly is going on and where do they lack. And based on that, you give them a weightage. Cool. And then the last step, which is deciding which method you want to use for the sales auditing. For example, there are majorly two ways. Either you take a survey or you do a one-to-one. So when you take a survey, there are different kind of things which can happen in both these scenarios, right? For example, surveys, they are less time consuming because let's say you just make a Google form, send it to all of your members, they fill up the Google form and you get the response back. So it is very less time consuming because you can give your members a deadline, at the same time the entire membership can finish up the sales auditing. When it comes to one-to-ones, they are more time consuming. But then when it comes to one-to-ones, they are time consuming because you are giving attention to each and every member at one particular time for one member, and that is going to be much more descriptive, right? Surveys, they are less detailed. Why so? Because if I as a member, I'm expected to answer a question, then I will put down a limited amount of, I will express myself in a limited way. Because when you speak, you tend to speak much more than when you tend to write, right? So that is why surveys become less detailed. However, one-to-ones are more detailed because these members are just expressing themselves. They are talking about it. So even if they have certain things which they want to express, they will be much more open to express because they are just supposed to say it and not type it down or write it down. Surveys do not give a lot of insights because members are limited in certain capacity to give their knowledge answers or to give their product knowledge answers or to show their communication skills, right? Because it is difficult to show your communication skills in terms of writing anything down. But when it comes to one-to-ones, they are verbal, hence they give much more insights and they are much more detailed. That is why one-to-ones are a good way to take up sales auditing. However, it totally depends on you. If you think that one-to-ones are not possible for you, then you can always do surveys as well. Whatever is convenient for you, you can decide it. But then the important factor is to actually ensure that every member is communicating the way they have to, and every member is being honest in their answers, because you do not want to do a sales audit which is actually very extensive, but at the same time does not give you enough insights. It does not make sense, right? Because you as an LCVP will just be wasting time there. So it is very, very important to actually put in a lot of efforts into understanding what exactly are your members expressing and then evaluating them based on that. Cool. Is everyone clear with the procedure till now? Are you guys clear? Understood. Yeah. Great. Thank you so much. Let's move ahead. So now I have one GCP to share with you guys, which is AIESEC in India's OGV sales auditing. So since I'm the OGV of AIESEC in India, we have this kind of a procedure being implemented, and all the LCs right now are going through sales auditing procedure. So I'm going to show you guys what exactly does our sales auditing mechanism look like and what is the entire format. So this is the main tracking sheet for the sales auditing. Here there is guidelines given for everyone as to how exactly they are supposed to take up sales auditing. So if let's say I come to any sheet, let's say I come to this LC sheet. Over here, if you see, we are evaluating members onto two bases. First is their organization, product, and IR knowledge. And the second thing is communication. Now, if you see over here, let me zoom in a bit so that you guys can see. Yeah. If you see over here, there are questions for everything. For example, there are basic questions like what is AIESEC, what is the definition of global volunteer, what are sub-products of global volunteer, what is the value proposition, all of that. So when we ask these questions, we note down the RR members answering. We have used the method of one-to-ones over here. So when we ask these questions, we note down what exactly are our members answering, and then accordingly, we also give them a score. Can everyone else see the slides? Is everything visible?
Yes.
Yeah, Eugene, I'll be sharing. Okay, great. I'll be sharing the framework later on so that you guys can, look it and start implementing it with you guys. So in the output, you will find the framework as well. So this is where all the questions are, and based on the questions, we are also giving them scores because we want to see how exactly did they answer for every question. So in the guidelines, the answers are already given, like what is the expected answer for every question. And based on that, they are being evaluated and they are being given the scores. So when you look over here, in terms of communication, this is more of, are they easy to understand? Are they placing things in the right way? Are they, able to provide information? Are they like literally placing the line of communication is correct? All of that. And based on that, we are giving them scores, which is being visible over here. So this is being done in two ways. So for the team leaders in a department, my NST is doing the entire sales auditing. And for the members, the LCVPs are doing it. So over here, this is the procedure that we use. There is a master tracker here. There are guidelines being given over here. Everything is given. And based on that, we are doing this entire sales auditing. And over here, if you see, there's also a place given for people to define the targets for these three levels. So for example, what will be the approvals and leads and everything? There are KPI target definition over here. So that is what the entire framework looks like for AIESEC in India. Now you guys can define whatever framework you think is important or you think is right for you guys. There is no correct framework for this. Whatever is suitable to you is the correct framework actually. But then you have to ensure that when you are actually doing this entire sales audit, you are being very, very prompt in terms of membership and you are able to evaluate them correctly, because the entire output of this sales auditing has to be that you understand where your members lack, and based on that, you are able to help them out in defining strategies. So after you finish the sales auditing, the output should be in you defining sales strategies for all these three levels that you have put down. Because if you are not able to come up with strategies, the entire sales auditing mechanism does not make sense, because it will of course tell you where your people lack, but if there is no strategy to follow up, then it will not make sense. Now, when it comes to these things, when I was an LCVP back in 2018, I was facing a lot of issues when it comes to like sales and when it comes to evaluating my members, because although there were of course like some members who are performing really well and they're always like the star members who do really well and they know how to take things up and all of that, I still had a lot of members who are not really good in terms of sales auditing, or who are not really good in terms of like how they are pitching or what are they communicating and all of that. So me and my MD had to come up with something which is actually going to help us boost the sales of these people, because we have to understand where they are lacking, and based on that we had to help them out as well. So what we were doing at the end, me and my TLs, we thought that okay, we need to pair these people up with other people, right? So for example, we paired the people who are not good in sales with people who are good in sales, and we tried to create like a co-learning environment. And through that, when we actually started understanding that okay, this is what is actually helping us, we were able to generate some results. And even for my team leaders, they were not doing the exact sales auditing like how you guys just thought. It was not this intense. The entire mechanism was not this intense. But then they of course had one-to-ones with their members, and they were taking up like fake calls. For example, there's an entire mock pitching, right? So let's say I am a team leader, I'm sitting here and I make my member sit in front of me and I make my member pitch to me. And then I give the member a feedback. So it's like a mock pitching session. We had a lot of those mock pitching sessions with on basis of a one-to-one. So every team leader did a one-to-one with their members and did a mock pitching session. And at the end, they were able to give a feedback. So when they give a feedback, this is going to help, in understanding where the members lack, and the members exactly know what exactly they need to work on. So this is why sales auditing mechanism becomes very important, because no matter what way you use, you have to ensure that at the end your members are developing and they are becoming better at sales auditing. And in terms of like when it comes to your membership and how are you trying to engage them, and because as an LCVP you always write down a lot of knowledge in terms of product, IR, and a lot of other things. But then when it comes to practical understanding, that is where you need to focus on as well. Because if you are not able to provide your experience, your delegates or your entire membership with a lot of practical experience, they will not exactly learn. So it is not necessary for you to always ask them to take up calls and call EPs or leads or whatever. You can also do it within your department. You can for sure tell your membership to do it within the department, where they call up a TL and do a mock pitching and all of that. And you as an LCVP play a very important role in evaluating how exactly